Your eyes up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy.
I don't think we'll ever be good again.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird seeing like how Nebraska was just such a powerhouse there for, growing up. I'm sure I'm several years older than you, but like I grew up as a CU fan back in the the early '90s when they had the co-national championship, and I went to one CU game after I started school at CSU, and I quickly decided I'll root for CU anymore. So, but it was like the CU Nebraska rivalry, the like Nebraska Oklahoma rivalry, like those were all like powerhouses, and now they're like Oklahoma is kind of good sometimes.
Yeah.
And then Nebraska's like meh.
Yeah.
CU, I honestly I couldn't even tell you how good they're in the Pac-12. It's weird. It's weird how college football's changed.
Yeah. I mean, we've got Scott Frost. We thought he was like the savior when we first got him, and then I don't know, things have just been tough, and I think they'll give him one last year to get it together. And if he doesn't get it together, I think they're going to fire him. And I'm not an expert, but I don't know. I don't think we'll ever be that team that we were back in the 90s. I think college football has just evolved, and we haven't really evolved with it up here in Nebraska. But again, that just comes from me, and I don't know a terrible lot. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, it is what it is. I haven't watched college football in forever, but it's kind of I remember when Nebraska was like really good. I remember when Oklahoma was like, in the conversation for national championship. Now they're just like, yeah, whatever. But we got a few people tuning in now, and so welcome Daylight Burners, and welcome back Mackenzie Johnston. Second time on the show, but first time as co-host of Fence Post Politics. So maiden voyage of this little conglomeration, and I think it's going to be really, really good going forward. I'm going to let Mackenzie kind of take the reins from here, and she's got some topics specifically to ag, and I'd imagine more head towards the cattle and beef production side of things, but I honestly don't know. We haven't discussed topics yet, so I'm excited just as much as you guys are.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. This is exciting. This is an exciting partnership. Like within ag and the cattle industry over the past couple of weeks, it's been a little bit slower when it comes to news and hot topics. There has been a lot of stories come out looking back over 21, looking back over the issues we've seen in 21. There's been some stories in the last couple of weeks about how the pandemic, I know we're past the pandemic, but how Omicron may still impact our industry when it comes to shutdowns. I'm sure you have a strong opinion on that. But even with trucking and getting product into grocery stores wholesale, and the fact that that might even increase beef prices even more than what we're seeing today. And we've seen record prices in the past few months. So that has definitely been a hot topic. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, I think it sounds like, they're still like really trying to hype up the mass hysteria as always. but it seems to be losing a lot of steam. And the more we hear about this you know Decepticon Omicron variant, it's looking like this thing is doing what viruses do, and it's mutating out, and it's slowly going to become like the common cold. And this particular variant seems to be very, very similar to a common cold, and with the caveat that it's probably a lot more dangerous than that. But it seems to be on that trajectory, and that I don't know. They've been talking about vaccine mandates for air travel. It seems like that guy is doing everything he can to like spark us into actual armed conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, it just like things are kind of like it kind of gets lost in the fray during the holiday season, so like people aren't paying quite as much attention to it. And then you come out with something like that, and you're just like, do you really want people to fight? Because this is going to lead to people fighting. Like, and
Yeah.
it's frustrating, but I think the inflation problem is going to, like, we haven't seen the beginning of it yet. This Build Back Better bill, thank God that kind of got shut down, but it seems like they're trying to resurrect every little bit of it they can, and it's just so much money. And when you have something like 40% of all U.S. dollars were created in the last like 18 months, that's where your inflation comes from. And when they just start spending more and more money and printing more and more and more, and they're not even really printing it anymore, it's just adding zeros on a computer. But that's what leads to hyperinflation, and we're really, really well with like Weimar Germany right now as far as the inflation. I don't know where we're headed on that.
Yeah, so I'm sure you heard that the Feds announced in the past couple of weeks that they are going to raise interest rates 4 times in the next year, and I'm sure they announced the percentage. Maybe it's like half a percentage every time, but I obviously didn't live through the 80s. I was there for the tail end, but obviously interest rates were
Hmm.
off the charts. And in order to slow down inflation, as you and I both know, you have to raise interest rates. Do you think we could be looking at a situation, excuse me, somewhat similar to the 80s, when we have to continue to bump up interest to slow down this problem we have?
I think we might be on that track. I don't see that really happening under a Biden administration. I don't know what their plan is really. It's except get vaccinated. Like that seems to be their only like real plan is to, get vaccinated. Um, so, but I think yeah, you're gonna start to see some really interesting moves from the Federal Reserve in the next year or so, um, to try and combat this inflation deal. But they never will get to like the core problem of it, which is sound money policy. And so the raising of the interest rates, that I'm sure it'll do some stuff in the short term, but boy, it's I don't know. It just looks like we're setting for like a big bubble burst, and you
Yeah.
know, it sure looks like it.
Yeah. That's a scary thought. So I don't know if you saw it. It was all over Facebook this week. There was an article that came out in the New York Times that basically just talked about how cattle producers, how we're feeding the world, but yet we're not getting paid for it. And the corporates are snagging all the profit within our industry. It was basically a reiteration of what we've heard in the past couple years. And and it's basically a reiteration of everything I've talked about on my updates in the past few years. But what are your thoughts on that whole situation? We've touched on it a little bit, but on the Packers, yes, there it is, on the Packers having so much control and how do we make our way out of this? And I know that's a pretty broad question and we could probably talk about it for hours. But what are your thoughts on all that?
I I think it's a good thing that this is finally starting to make national headlines, and we you do have to remember who is who's writing this article, because it is the New York Times. They're not, to say that they're not trustworthy would be a huge understatement. But that being said, they still do a lot of good work. It's still a valuable news source. And as much as I don't trust them as far as I can throw them, they're typically not out and out lying to you. May not be truthful in how they shape things, but they're usually not out and out lying. So it's good that it's come to the national. As far as anything real getting done, I don't know, this compromise bill. I was reading an article from was it Tri-State Livestock News,
Yeah.
and how it really looks like it's a boon for the packers, and not much relief for the cattle producers. So that's the issue that you have when you have put your faith in government getting something done, because they're gonna try to get this one done, but it's that's a two-edged sword, because it doesn't look like it's gonna help us much. It's gonna increase profits even more for these packers, and then it's actually gonna it's gonna make it harder to get something done in the future, I think.
Right. Yeah. Waiting. I don't know. Maybe waiting for the government isn't always the best thing, because we've seen what our government does, and how it takes them a while to get anything done. If they do get it done, and what they say they're going to do, how that actually plays out might not be exactly what we expected. So there's all of that.
Right. Yeah, and then this the current Ag Secretary, Vilsack, he could be worse. I'll say that he could be worse. Considering the administrations that he's worked for in the past and currently working for, we could do a lot worse. So, I guess that's a little silver lining, but he's not great by any means.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
I don't know. I would like to see if there is any movement towards some real enforcement of the Packer and Stalkers Act. I won't hold my breath, but it seems like maybe there's I know, like, Marco Rubio has kind of thrown his hat in the ring at investigating JBS, or just Brazil in general, on the beef side of things. So the Congress loves to investigate, and they love, because that gives them a chance to give flowery speeches in the form of a question for in front of the national TV. So if they do get to investigate, we'll get some really good sounding questions and really good sound bites, but I don't see much, at least at the federal level. There's I just don't see much happening there.
Right. So I don't know if you caught it last week. Canada reported that they had discovered an atypical case of BSE, mad cow disease. And so earlier, it might have been yesterday, I believe. Yeah, yesterday was Monday. Gosh, I want to say it's not China, maybe South Korea. Some country that Canada exports to, they have halted the imports of Canadian beef because of this BSE report. And so if we do turn back time a little bit farther, Brazil reported BSE cases back in early September, and then we saw China halt their imports of Brazilian beef. However, through all of this, through the Brazilian BSE cases and now the one discovered up in Canada, America continues to import beef from these countries. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of people that are super vocal about that situation.
I saw the headline about the BSE, um, and man, I think as much as I'm a very much a free market economy guy, I think it's it's a prudent measure to take care of the U.S. beef supply, uh, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I like our neighbors to the north. I like to give them a hard time, but I really I really enjoy Canadians. But fuck off, Canada. We gotta deal with our own stuff here. Brazil, you can go to hell too. Uruguay, all of you guys. Sorry, I don't care. We've got enough of a crisis here in America, and that may be xenophobic or nationalist or whatever the fuck the buzzwords are nowadays. But yeah, I would be in favor of shutting down all beef imports until we fix what we got going on here. Uh, then you don't got to worry about mandatory country of origin labeling when every single cut of beef that's sold in the U.S. is actually grown in the U.S.
Uh-huh.
So, I would say that the battle trade between the U.S. and Mexico. That's while I know our kind of pretty thriving cattle trade there, and I don't see a whole lot of issue um, with with cattle on that end, but the particularly the importing of beef. Why would we? Why do we need to? And it's only because the accurate.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of people come to the defense of it, saying that we need that lean trim for our own market. A lot of people say that if we didn't have that lean trim, we wouldn't have the hamburger supply that we have, and we wouldn't be able to fill all the needs here in this country. However, I've always thought, and I'm not an expert, but I've always wondered if we didn't have that import, those beef imports, wouldn't that just significantly help our cull cow market that we can get trim off of those animals, you know?
It would seem like it'd be a real real shot in the arm to the cold cow market. The like you're just yeah you're kind of canner type cows that's good hamburger there, and it just adds a little value, and where you're just not watching the old cow rot away to nothing, and you're never gonna get anything for 'em. And yeah, I think there's a time and a place for tariffs and just shutting down imports. I think at some point we've got to we've got plenty of supply here, and we need to fix our own economy before we start worrying about importing beef from other countries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And one more thing about the call cow market, the average rancher, 20% of their yearly income comes from their call cows, which is huge. Imagine how that would help our industry if, that market just got a little bit of a shot in the arm. In my opinion, I think that could be a real game changer.
I think so too. Have you heard any progress updates from Sustainable Beef there in North Platte?
Oh, so I haven't heard anything. I haven't talked to Trey Wasserberger in a while, but there was an article in the North Platte Post last week. And I'm not going to say it was negative by any means, but it talked about the lengthy process that Sustainable Beef has in front of it when it comes to applying for, gosh, what's the correct word? Um, they have to apply for certain basically steps they have to go through still in the process of before they can start construction.
Mm.
So anyway, it basically just talked about the longer road ahead that they have. But from what I have heard and what from Trey Wasserberger has said that it's all green lights and things are going well. And I think they are. I think they're going fantastic for those guys.
Good. I really want to see you know, I've spoke with Trey on the podcast before, and I like where they're headed, and it's nice to see somebody just to, you know, trying to do something to kind of break this stranglehold, and doing it from the private sector, and not throwing up a Hail Mary to the U.S. government.
Right, exactly. And you talk about them being successful, and maybe this is a little too overconfident, but I don't feel like with that group that they have put together, the professionals they have together, those ranchers that have come together, I feel like, you know, it would take something catastrophic for them to fail. They're just a go-getting group and a lot of knowledge, and they know what they're doing. So I think things are looking good for them.
I think so too, and they're starting to get some mainstream media coverage as well,
Yeah.
and that always helps. And I think it's going to be projects like that, and then more of a move towards a direct to consumer market, or more of a, you know, a source and age verified deal where it comes with a story instead of just a, you know, a stamp of you know, source, and you know, your you know, CAB label or whatever. It's
Mhm.
when it becomes more of a personalized purchase at the store, um, which is where we're kind of headed towards. The, you know, operations like Sustainable Beef, or your friendly neighbor beef to sell. That's the stuff that's going to change the industry, I think, and it's really cool seeing folks like that stick their neck out, and try to move in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a risk, I'd say, but I think to get anywhere in life, you have to take a risk, and I commend all those guys. And you talk about which way the industry is moving, such as what Sustainable Beef is doing, or if you are doing direct to consumer marketing. I think us as producers, we need to realize that that is now what the consumers want, and we have to maybe make
Mm-hmm.
changes with how we operate in order to satisfy the consumer. And I think that is incredibly hard for a lot of people in the industry. Change is not accepted
Mm-hmm.
very well.
No, it's not, and yeah, there's a lot of just, you know, that we did it because, you know, Granddad did this way, and not
Mhm.
that Granddad was wrong, but the way Granddad was doing it isn't working in today's times, and that doesn't mean you have to change everything. But if you don't adapt to the market, you get pushed out of the market.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I don't know if you saw that since the National Western Stock Show in Denver, Colorado is under a month away, Jesus, just a few weeks. The mask mandate in Denver, Colorado has been extended, so there will supposedly be a mask mandate at the stock show. Do you think this is going to impact attendance?
Mm. Yeah, I would imagine so. Um, I would imagine. I guess I hadn't heard that stock show moved back to Denver. Because it was at Grand Island. Was that last year or year before?
It was in Oklahoma last year. They took it down to Oklahoma
Okay.
City last
Okay.
year because they had all those regulations in Colorado. So they never actually like took it away from Denver. And I saw a lot of people comment on the article, which was written by the Fence Post magazine, saying that, wait, I thought Denver didn't have it anymore, but they still have it. And yeah, I just,
Okay.
and Rachel Gable with the Fence Post, she's the one that wrote the article. And she talked about how she believes that this mandate will be lightly enforced, but I think it will be interesting to see if it does impact the crowd in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah.
There's some I would imagine. I mean, I think there was a mask mandate at the uh at the NFR. I don't know if at Thomas and Matt itself, but I know Vegas has a mask mandate, and you didn't see a whole lot of masks on TV at the NFR, so
Yeah.
I imagine it's going to be kind of like that. So I don't know if people are excited for it to be back in Denver. I think they'll show up and just say, just you know, comply just enough to get in, and then we're not worry about the mask. I would imagine, but I wonder. Denver at every step has done everything they can to push the stock show out, and they just don't weaken.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as Rachel Gable talked about, it's been there for, I mean, 115 years. There's 115 years of history behind
Mm,
the stock show in Denver, which is huge. Uh, yeah, it's interesting. It'll really be interesting in the coming years as Colorado becomes more liberal, especially the Denver area, to see how that impacts the stock show.
yeah, it'll be really interesting because I mean, stock show is a tradition for me. I went every year from eighth grade till like a couple of years after I graduated college, and
Oh,
just every
wow.
single year I went, and and so it's I mean, it's very much a tradition in Colorado agriculture, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's sad. The city of Denver has been at war with the stock show for quite a while, and they just like I said, it just seems like they do everything they can to, and it's almost working.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think last year when they had it down in Oklahoma, I think it was a hit. I heard a lot of great things. So, I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of places that would love to take the stock show on with open arms.
Yeah, I think so. And Denver, just anymore, they don't have that much to offer. Um,
I haven't been there.
outside of there's not a whole lot of ag centric stuff in Denver,
Yeah. Yeah. Which, yeah,
and
that's definitely something to consider.
yeah, and so like on a similar note, Vegas had all the mask mandates and all the lockdown, the occupancy requirements last year. So NFR moved to Texas, and I heard a lot of people really talking up the Texas experience, but the more you hear from this year, it's no, Vegas still owns the NFR. They're Vegas still has enough of an offering that people like the NFR in Vegas, and I think I think that one's probably going to stay.
Yeah.
Texas, they made a splash, but I don't see it going anywhere besides Vegas.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, Vegas and the NFR, they just go hand in hand. You can't beat it.
Yeah, and it's just I just it felt like all was right with the world, seeing them turn the corner at Thomas and Mack on the team roping side. It's just like you see that in December. Like the world's kind of starting to get back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A little normalcy. So the
Did
last,
you did
go
you
ahead.
the NFR when you were at RFD and Cowboy Channel?
No, I didn't work for them long enough to make it out there for anything. I went out there for fun when I was in college, and then I had a friend that was Miss Rodeo Nebraska, and I went, geez, I think it was 13 or 4. It would have been 2013, I think. Um,
Okay.
and I'm guessing you've been out to the NFR various times.
No, I've actually I've spent very little time in Vegas, but I've got a bunch of buddies that go every year, and I've once, and it is not my scene. I like people, but I kind of like them from a distance.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I am not a fan of Vegas itself, but the finals, it is incredible. I don't even know if there's words to go along with it. It is just the atmosphere and the Thomas and Mack, everyone is just right on top of the arena. It's electric, I guess you'd
Hmm.
say. But Vegas itself,
Yeah,
I don't love all the people. I do love a good roulette table, but I 3 days out there.
roulette's your game, huh?
Yeah. Roulette is my game, or else a good slot machine. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
There you there you
I've got a
go.
love affair with a roulette table. But
I'm a blackjack guy, and I'm not good at it, but I like to play. I
I
like to see
think
how long it can make $100 last.
I think 90% of the male population is a blackjack guy. If you ask any guy, hey, gambling, what are you into? Blackjack. It's just, and not trying to be sexist by
Yep.
any means, but it's just kind of the thing, I think.
No, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you? This is a He-Man woman haters club on this show. I know you joined on. I mean, it's a rare occasion I let the women talk, but how dare you with the sexism?
Oh, I know. The haters are gonna come out of the woodwork.
Yeah. So on the kind of on that note, on the cultural side of things here, this holiday season, apparently, Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman, who used to be really incredibly funny. Like I just Seth Rogen has been in some of the best comedy movies ever made, and has turned into just like a really giant liberal woke on Twitter as of the last several years. It has as much of Hollywood, but apparently they made this like claymation Santa program, and it was supposed to be like kind of edgy comedy, but like also combining the woke nonsense, and so now it's like a woman Santa Claus, and
Oh my
yeah,
God.
it's just like that's a it's a strange way to go. I mean, I guess that's one way to do it, but
I
I,
I wish I could
the
say I'm
edgy
surprised,
comedy
but
and
I'm not surprised.
wokeness, yeah, yeah, it just like if you haven't noticed, like the woke nonsense is about like the Christian conservative right in the 90s when everything was off limits.
Mhm.
They're very similar in that way, and that doesn't lead towards edgy comedy very well. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I listened to like a little clip of it, and it just
I'll
could they
have to
just go
check it
back to
out.
being funny? Like I liked it when they were funny.
Yeah, I missed that somehow. That sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, and I've heard, and this one I've actually heard some good things about, and I've not watched it yet.
Oh, okay.
Maybe this will be our research project for next
Yeah.
week. It's on Netflix, and it's called Don't Look Up, and it's all along those same lines. It's an Adam McKay movie. He made like I think he made The Hangover, all the Hangover movies, and he made The Big Short, and he's made some really funny movies, and but it's about climate change because of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?
Oh my
And
God.
and about how nobody is doing anything about climate change, and how just everybody's acting like. And so I don't know. I've heard that it's funny from a few people. I've also heard that it's garbage from another few people, and I like the guy's movies, so I'll give it a shot. I'll see what it's about, and hopefully they make a funny comedy because those have been very rare in the last several years. That's my easily my favorite genre of movie, and there just hasn't been any good ones in a long time.
I feel like movies in general have not been solid for quite a while. There's been a few good ones
No,
along
it's
the
all
way.
remakes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's never a movie that comes out that I think to myself, man, I want to see that ASAP. Like, I want to go to the theater and see that. I know no one goes to theaters anymore, but I don't know. I don't know why movie making has just went to hell, I guess. But I think part of it is I think so much of the movie making these days and also just the television shows on TV, they all have an agenda behind them. And it's the woke agenda, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And that just totally irritates me. And I just don't watch it.
Yeah, yeah, I don't watch much TV anymore after starting this whole thing. I don't have that much time, but but yeah, like me and my wife are going back and watching The Sopranos, and like I
Yeah.
South Park still they still do it upright. South Park still got the touch, but
Yeah.
outside of that, I like it's all I don't know. It Media is weird right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll watch the movie and see, but I think you're gonna as the COVID stuff kind of fades away. Hopefully, like I said, they're still hanging on for dear life to all the COVID hysteria, but I think it's starting to fade away. Even you know, Biden admitted that there's no federal solution to it, so that's a good step.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly.
but I don't think that's gonna. I don't think it's gonna make states like California and New York less crazy, though. If not, it might actually make them more crazy.
Yeah.
Um, It'll be interesting to see what New York City does when the new mayor takes office. That The current mayor, that guy is a real piece of shit. That guy is, oh, he has destroyed New York City.
Oh, I know.
Um,
Their vaccine mandate? That is
yeah,
wild.
yeah, yeah. It's insane that like. Did you see that video that was floating? I don't know how much you spend on Twitter, but there was a video floating around Twitter of uh, there was like 20 NYPD officers like surrounded this booth at a restaurant to escort people out because they like the kid was crying. One of the cops was laughing at the kid, and I
Yeah.
was like, man, that
Yeah.
is like that's some Soviet Russia shit.
Yeah, that is extreme. Who would have ever thought we'd see that here?
Yeah, and it's wild. So I mean, if you don't live in those type of environments, like, but man, be thankful that's I'm so glad I live in rural Nevada and not New York City or LA.
Yeah, well, if I did, I would get out because I think it's only going to get
Oh
worse.
yeah.
And you talked about how COVID will hopefully fade away in the near future. And I do think there's a chance of that. But I think also this administration, they cannot let go of the thought of having control of the people here in the United States, which probably sounds pretty crazy and
Hmm.
radical. But they're wanting to force all this on us. And the moment they step back and say COVID isn't as much of a threat, that takes some of their push for power away. So it'll be interesting to see how they
Hmm.
walk that line going forward.
I think, and I've heard this predicted several other places too, but um, I think they're gonna push more as COVID kind of fades away. They're gonna push more towards the climate change stuff, which
Oh,
is even more scary because while I don't like I don't buy into the full into the climate change green agenda. I do think there is something to be said about pollution and what I don't know. I, I don't know what how far I would go into all of that, but um, the scary thing about them pushing the climate change agenda is it's very vague, and
yeah.
you know we thought the COVID restrictions made no sense. The climate change restrictions that if they try to go full authoritarian like they did on COVID with climate change, they're going to make even less sense.
Hmm.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Keep an eye out for that. I think you're going to start seeing, and that's kind of where I was headed. Because they're acting like people aren't aware of the climate change conversation. And I don't know if you've noticed over the weekend and over Christmas and whatnot. I keep seeing these articles about how it's a rare white Christmas in the Western United States, and it's like man, who would have imagined that in December in the Northern Hemisphere it would snow? I mean that's just a shocker. Who
Shocker, real
would
shocker.
who would have thought that it would snow on Christmas in the northern hemisphere. Um, it's not like the place is getting snow over the weekend, over this past week. Or it's not like it's snowing in Atlanta or
Mhm.
Corpus Christi or Miami. It's snowing in. They point out Seattle and Portland, which maybe they don't get a ton of snow because they're just right on the coast, but it still gets cold up there. It's the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
Um, that they're no strangers to snow up there. I mean, that is a pretty common occurrence,
Yeah.
and it's like this weird gaslighting that you're supposed to think that it's weird for it to snow in winter.
That's worrisome.
I don't know.
I didn't
It's
see
it's
that.
like it's a weird mind game.
Yeah, which is right up their alley.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me with my tinfoil hat on again, but I noticed several articles that they kept like unprecedented or or rare winter storm. It was rare last year because it was a dry year, but winter storms have been happening since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Last I knew, anyway. So
Yeah, it's not out of the norm just because
it's
it's
just I don't know.
dry. Huh.
Yeah, it is. So that was a weird one I noticed. But that's really all I on the ag side of things.
Yeah.
And like I said, that was kind of rush deal. But I think the ag sector will be one of the most hard hit sectors of the economy by this green
Oh,
agenda because
yeah. It'll be devastating.
ag makes a real production agriculture makes a real easy target too. So,
Yeah, we're basically just a scapegoat and just an easy target, and they will come after us from every side.
yeah, um, it's and you gotta stay, and it's hard to not just become depressed when looking through the news, but you have to really do a lot of reading to figure out what the actual story is, and you still may not know like what the all the facts are, but you have to read left wing, right wing, off the wall, obscure sources to find a decent picture of what's actually going on. Because even though I prefer Fox News over CNN, that doesn't mean that Fox News isn't just as full of shit as CNN. It just they're telling you what you want to hear, just like CNN's telling the lefties what they want to hear.
Yeah,
And
any
so,
news source can skew anything. I mean, you can tell a story however you want.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you come to It's Post Politics and the Burning Daylight podcast for real nonsense that we put out as news. Actually, Mackenzie actually does a really good job on the market report. That's I'm really excited to have that on the feed. I think the listeners will really like that, and it adds a little more content, and you get I don't know, it just you get a young voice putting a good show together, and so make sure you tune in starting Monday, I believe. All right. So yeah, do you have a kind of a time frame when you normally post, or is it just sometime throughout the day?
Um, I'll post first thing in the morning. So probably it'll be anytime in between 4 and 6 a.m. So I try to get it out there before
Okay,
everyone's out of bed.
there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. So first thing in the morning, you'll have a market report, and yeah, so that'll be you can watch it on Mackenzie's Facebook or YouTube, and you can watch it on the Burning Daylight, and then it'll be on the podcast feed as well. So um, more people will be hearing you. So and that's awesome. We got some big things happening in 2022, and yeah, it's gonna be a good year. I can already feel it.
You bet. Super excited.
Yeah, and yeah, I think you got anything else you wanted to cover today, or are we good?
I think we're good. I think this was a good first run.
I think so too. So, thanks everybody for tuning in. And move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.